The backpack felt heavier with each step across the MIT campus that October evening. Lieutenant Colonel Zara, Phantom, Kovac had traded her flight suit for civilian clothes, her combat boots for worn sneakers, her squadron for a classroom of 20-year-olds who called her ma'am, when they bothered to show respect at all. The Advanced Aeronautical Engineering course was supposed to be her bridge back to relevance, a path from the cockpit to the Pentagon's back rooms, where wars were planned by people who'd never felt G-forces crush their ribcage or tasted the metallic fear of incoming missiles. She was nobody now, just another veteran trying to matter again. The black Humvee materialized beside her like a predator emerging from shadows. No engine sound, no warning. The passenger window rolled down with military precision, revealing Master Sergeant Rodriguez's weathered face. His eyes held that particular gravity reserved for moments when everything changes forever. "Colonel Kovac, we need you to come with us immediately." Zara's hand instinctively moved to where her sidearm used to rest. Old habits. The campus around them seemed suddenly fragile, autumn leaves scattered like debris from an explosion. Students walked past, earbuds blocking out a world that was about to shift beneath their feet. "I'm retired, Sergeant." "Not anymore, ma'am. There's been an incident." The word hung in the air like cordite smoke. In military speak, incident could mean anything from diplomatic embarrassment to nuclear catastrophe. Rodriguez's expression suggested the latter end of that spectrum. Behind him, she glimpsed another figure in dress blues, ribbons catching streetlight like Morse code spelling out classified nightmares. "What kind of incident?" "The kind that requires someone with your particular skill set. Someone who knows the F-35 systems better than the engineers who built them. Someone who's been places that don't exist on any map." The autumn wind carried the scent of burning leaves, but Zara caught something else underneath it, the phantom smell of jet fuel and cordite that never quite left her nostrils. Her fingers traced the small scar along her jawline, a memento from her last official mission. The one that had ended her career in a classified courtroom where she'd been blamed for surviving what others couldn't. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Ma'am, I'm authorized to tell you this. Flight 447 went dark over international waters 3 hours ago. 27 souls aboard, including Senator Mitchell's daughter. The aircraft was modified, and the people who took it aren't asking for ransom." The academic world around her suddenly felt like a child's game of pretend. Real war had found her again. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Wraith Petrov watched the Situation Room fill with shadows and cigarette smoke, though smoking had been banned in federal buildings for decades. Some rules bent when the world threatened to break. The wall displays showed tracking data that made seasoned analysts reach for antacids, flight paths that shouldn't exist, radar signatures that defied physics, and a passenger manifest that read like a who's who of national security. 27 passengers. Among them, the Defense Secretary's Chief of Staff, 2 Pentagon contractors with cosmic-level clearances, and Emma Mitchell, the senator's 23-year-old daughter who'd been returning from a climate conference in Geneva. The kind of passenger list that turned routine hijackings into international incidents. "Sir, the aircraft dropped off civilian radar at approximately 13:47 hours, 43 minutes into flight," reported communications specialist Chen, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands as she manipulated the holographic display. "Last known position was here, roughly 200 nautical miles southeast of Newfoundland." The trajectory made Petrov's blood run cold, not because of where the aircraft had been, but because of where it was likely heading. The dotted line on the screen pointed toward a region that officially didn't exist, a patch of ocean where experimental weapons testing occurred beneath covers so black they absorbed light itself. "What about military tracking?" "That's complicated, sir." Chen's fingers hesitated over her tablet. We're detecting electromagnetic anomalies consistent with advanced stealth technology. Whatever modifications were made to that aircraft, they weren't done in someone's garage. General Morrison, seated at the head of the oval table, studied the data with the expression of a man watching his chess pieces disappear one by one. His 4 stars seemed to dim in the artificial light as he processed implications that could redefine modern warfare. Gentlemen, ladies, Morrison's voice cut through the tension like a blade through silk. We're not dealing with conventional terrorists. The level of sophistication required for these modifications suggests state-level resources. The passenger list suggests surgical precision in target selection. And the timing. He gestured toward the secondary display showing global political developments. Well, let's just say this complicates several ongoing operations. Petrov knew what Morrison couldn't say aloud in this room. The missing aircraft carried technology that could shift global power balances. The passengers weren't just people. They were walking repositories of classified information. In the wrong hands, their combined knowledge could unravel decades of carefully constructed strategic advantages. The question wasn't who had taken the aircraft. The question was whether they understood what they'd stolen and whether America would survive getting it back. Deep beneath NORAD's granite fortress, the screens painted pictures of impossibility in pixels and light. Technical Sergeant Maya Okonkwo had monitored aerospace activity for 8 years, tracking everything from weather balloons to hypersonic weapons tests. She'd seen glitches, ghost signals, and equipment malfunctions that would give civilian air traffic controllers nightmares. But this defied every protocol in her manual. Control, I'm showing multiple thermal signatures in Grid 77 Alpha, Maya reported into her headset, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that responded to her slightest touch. Signatures are inconsistent with known aircraft profiles. The response crackled with static and confusion. Say again, Watchdog 7. Are you reporting unidentified aircraft? Maya studied the data streaming across her displays. The signatures appeared intermittently, like ghosts flickering in and out of existence. When they appeared, they suggested aircraft moving at speeds that should have torn conventional airframes apart. When they vanished, they left behind electromagnetic echoes that resembled nothing in her database. Negative on aircraft control. These signatures are, she paused, knowing how her next words would sound. Sir, they're exhibiting characteristics consistent with plasma manipulation, as if something is creating controlled atmospheric disturbances. Silence stretched across the communications channel like a held breath. Maya could almost hear careers ending in the static. Colonel Sarah Hayes materialized behind Maya's workstation with the silent approach of someone accustomed to moving through classified spaces. Her security clearance allowed access to data that existed in verbal briefings only, never committed to any system that could be hacked or leaked. Sergeant, I need you to correlate those signatures with any unusual military exercises in the Atlantic Theater, Hayes said, her voice carrying authority earned through 20 years of managing information that could start or end wars. Check the Phoenix files. Maya's clearance didn't officially extend to Phoenix files, but extraordinary circumstances created extraordinary access. Her fingers moved across quantum-encrypted databases that few people knew existed. What she found made her understand why Colonel Hayes looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. The Phoenix program, atmospheric manipulation technology developed in partnership with aerospace contractors, whose names appeared only in congressional black budgets. Technology that could theoretically render aircraft invisible to conventional detection by creating plasma fields around the airframe. Ma'am, Maya's voice carried new weight, the missing Flight 447, if someone retrofitted it with Phoenix technology. Then we're not looking for a hijacked airliner. Hayes finished the thought that would reshape military doctrine. We're hunting a ghost that can strike anywhere without warning. The October sky above Joint Base Andrews wore the color of old steel, pregnant with storms that seemed to mirror the tension radiating from every hangar and operations center. Captain Isabella Ghost Ramirez hadn't expected to spend her mandatory leave period being summoned back to active duty by armed Marines who spoke in code phrases and avoided eye contact. The briefing room smelled of stale coffee and classified anxiety. Maps covered surfaces where inspirational posters once hung, red pins marking locations that existed only in intelligence estimates and satellite imagery. The assembled officers represented decades of combined combat experience, pilots who'd flown through surface-to-air missile storms over hostile territory, navigators who'd guided bombers through weather that grounded commercial aviation, weapons systems officers who'd targeted threats moving faster than sound itself. But the woman seated at the head of the table commanded attention through pure presence. Major General Patricia Blackwood had earned her stars by making decisions that saved lives and ended conflicts, often simultaneously. Her silver hair was pulled back with military precision, but her eyes held depths that suggested she'd seen too much and carried too many secrets. "Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to share cannot leave this room," Blackwood began, her voice carrying the weight of national security. At 13:47 hours today, we lost contact with a commercial aircraft carrying passengers whose combined knowledge represents decades of strategic advantage. She activated the holographic display with a gesture that seemed to summon ghosts from quantum fields. The image of Flight 447's last known position materialized above the table, accompanied by technical specifications that made seasoned pilots shift uncomfortably in their seats. The aircraft was modified using technology that officially doesn't exist, modifications that would allow it to operate beyond conventional detection capabilities, while carrying weapons systems that could reshape modern warfare. Captain Ramirez felt ice form in her stomach. She'd heard rumors during her F-22 deployments, whispers about aircraft that could manipulate atmospheric conditions, creating localized weather systems or becoming invisible to multiple detection spectrums simultaneously. Black projects funded by appropriations committees who never asked questions about line items labeled atmospheric research. "Ma'am," ventured Lieutenant Colonel Torres, a veteran of covert operations whose flight record contained more redacted sections than visible text, "are we talking about weaponized weather manipulation?" Blackwood's smile contained no warmth. "We're talking about the future of warfare, Colonel, a future that's currently in the hands of people who weren't invited to help shape it." The room fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning systems, working overtime to cool electronics that processed data streams from satellites positioned in orbits that didn't appear on public records. The hangar bay echoed with the mechanical symphony of preparation, hydraulic lifts raising ordnance, fuel lines connecting with precise clicks, maintenance crews performing final checks on aircraft that existed in budgets but not in public consciousness. The smell of JP-8 fuel mixed with machine oil created an atmosphere that spoke of serious intent and classified purpose. Zara stood before her assigned aircraft, trying to reconcile the familiar with the impossible. The F-35C Lightning II looked standard from a distance, but closer inspection revealed modifications that challenged her understanding of aerospace engineering. Additional sensor arrays protruded from surfaces that should have been smooth, creating geometric patterns that seemed to bend light itself. The weapons pylons had been reconfigured to accommodate systems she didn't recognize, sleek pods that hummed with barely contained energy. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" The voice belonged to Dr. Elizabeth Chen, a civilian contractor whose security badge displayed clearances that superseded most military personnel. Chen's appearance was deceptively academic, wire-rimmed glasses, graying hair pulled into a practical ponytail, but her eyes held the intensity of someone who'd spent years building weapons that existed only in classified imagination. Doctor, with respect, this aircraft has been modified beyond recognition. I need to understand what I'm flying before I take responsibility for 27 lives. Chen approached the aircraft with reverence bordering on worship, her hand trailing along hull surfaces that seemed to shift color depending on viewing angle. What you're looking at represents 15 years of development and approximately $40 billion in research. The atmospheric manipulation systems can create localized electromagnetic disturbances, essentially rendering the aircraft invisible to conventional detection methods. And the weapons systems. Directed energy, plasma-based, capable of disabling electronics from distances that conventional missiles can't achieve. Chen's voice carried pride and fear in equal measure. The technology was developed as a defensive measure, but in the wrong hands. Zara completed the thought. It becomes the ultimate first-strike weapon. She ran her fingers along the modified control surfaces, feeling vibrations that suggested systems operating beyond normal parameters. Doctor, have these modifications been tested under combat conditions? The silence stretched long enough to confirm what Zara already suspected. She would be conducting the ultimate field test while hunting an enemy equipped with identical technology. The mission wasn't just search and rescue. It was experimental warfare disguised as humanitarian action. Colonel, Chen said finally, the Phoenix systems respond to biometric inputs. They're calibrated to your specific neural patterns and stress responses. In theory, the aircraft becomes an extension of your consciousness under extreme conditions. Zara nodded, understanding that she was no longer just a pilot. She was about to become something that existed at the intersection of human intuition and technological impossibility, a ghost hunting another ghost across skis that had never seen such warfare. The pre-flight briefing room hummed with tension as thick as the autumn fog rolling across the Atlantic. Intelligence photographs covered every available surface, grainy satellite images, intercepted communications transcripts, and technical schematics that seemed to exist in quantum superposition between classified and impossible. The assembled personnel represented the military's finest specialists in unconventional warfare, their combined experience measured in decades of operations that would remain classified long after their grandchildren forgot their names. Commander Jake Falcon, Novak spread his hands across the central table, fingers tracing flight patterns that defied conventional understanding of physics and strategy. His 20 years of tactical aviation experience included missions over Iraq, Afghanistan, and several countries that didn't officially host American military operations. But nothing had prepared him for hunting prey that could rewrite the laws of aerial combat. Ladies and gentlemen, we're dealing with technology that can manipulate atmospheric conditions to create stealth effects beyond anything in our current arsenal, Novak began, his voice carrying the weight of implications that stretched far beyond this single mission. The hijacked aircraft isn't just invisible to radar. It can actively distort sensor readings, creating false signatures while masking its true location. Captain Alina Viper Volkov leaned forward, her Russian accent barely detectable after years of American military service. Her defection from the Sukhoi test pilot program had provided NATO with insights into advanced aerospace development that remained highly classified. Commander, atmospheric manipulation requires enormous energy expenditure. The aircraft's range would be severely limited. Under normal circumstances, yes. Novak activated the holographic display, revealing technical specifications that made seasoned pilots exchange worried glances. But Flight 447 was equipped with experimental fusion power cells. Theoretical flight endurance is now measured in weeks, not hours. The implications settled over the room like fallout. An aircraft that could remain airborne indefinitely while invisible to conventional detection represented a fundamental shift in strategic balance. In hostile hands, it became a weapon that could strike anywhere without warning, disappearing into atmospheric camouflage that rendered traditional defense systems obsolete. Lieutenant Martinez, the youngest officer present, raised a trembling hand. "Sir, if they can stay aloft indefinitely and remain undetected, how do we find them?" Novik's smile contained no humor. "We use technology they don't know we have, and we deploy pilots who understand that failure isn't an option." Through the briefing room windows, modified F-35s sat under floodlights that revealed aerodynamic impossibilities, aircraft that seemed to exist in violation of everything these officers had learned about flight. The Atlantic Ocean stretched beneath them like a vast gray mirror, reflecting skis that held secrets worth more than national treasuries. Zara's modified F-35 cut through air, thick, with electromagnetic disturbances, her instruments displaying readings that challenged fundamental assumptions about atmospheric physics. The Phoenix systems integrated seamlessly with her consciousness, feeding her sensory data that no human was designed to process, spatial awareness that extended beyond normal vision, electromagnetic sensitivity that bordered on supernatural intuition. "Ghost One, this is Control," crackled through her helmet speakers. The transmission filtered through encryption protocols that changed every 30 seconds. "We're detecting atmospheric anomalies bearing 270, range approximately 50 nautical miles. Investigate and report." Zara banked westward, feeling the aircraft respond to her intentions before her hands moved the controls. The Phoenix technology created a neural interface that translated thought into action, eliminating the microscopic delays that could determine survival in aerial combat. But the connection worked both ways. The aircraft's systems fed information directly into her nervous system, creating sensory experiences that had no names in any language. "Control, Ghost One, beginning approach to anomaly zone. Electromagnetic readings are unusual." Below, the ocean's surface displayed patterns that shouldn't exist, circular disturbances arranged in geometric precision, as if invisible giants were stirring the water with instruments designed by alien intelligence. Her enhanced sensors detected metallic signatures beneath the waves, shapes too regular to be natural formations. "Ghost One, we're losing telemetry. Say your status." Zara glanced at her communications array. The displays showed full function, but something was interfering with transmission protocols. The interference had structure, rhythm, almost like communication. "Control, I'm experiencing structured electromagnetic interference. Pattern suggests artificial origin. Recommend immediate backup protocols." The response came through static. "Ghost One, negative contact. Implement discretion." She was alone above an ocean that held secrets worth dying for, flying an aircraft that existed beyond official acknowledgement, hunting prey that could reshape civilization itself. The sky around her seemed to pulse with unseen energies, and for the first time since her court-martial, Zara Ghost Ramirez felt truly alive. Her tactical display suddenly illuminated with contacts that materialized from nowhere, multiple aircraft signatures appearing simultaneously at distances that should have provided adequate warning time. The hunt had found her first. The electromagnetic storm descended without warning, turning the sky into a laboratory where physics bent to accommodate impossible realities. Zara's F-35 bucked through atmospheric disturbances that felt like flying through solid matter, the Phoenix systems struggling to maintain coherent interaction with air that behaved like liquid mercury. Her heads-up display flickered between normal flight parameters and readings that suggested she'd entered a region where conventional understanding of aerospace dynamics became irrelevant. "Mayday, Mayday, this is Ghost One," she transmitted through static that seemed to contain structured patterns, as if her radio signals were being dissected and analyzed by intelligence beyond human comprehension. I have multiple unknowns in my vicinity. Electromagnetic interference is affecting all systems. The response came through layers of distortion: ghost, hold, position, backup, inbound. Through her canopy, Zara caught glimpses of aircraft that shouldn't exist, sleek forms that moved through the electromagnetic storm with ease that suggested they'd been designed specifically for these conditions. Their configuration resembled no aircraft in her database: elongated fuselages that seemed to flex like living tissue, wings that adjusted their geometry in real time, and propulsion systems that left no visible exhaust signature. Her threat warning system screamed multiple alerts as targeting radar swept her aircraft. The Phoenix stealth systems activated automatically, creating a field of distorted atmospheric conditions around her F-35. To external sensors, she would appear as a weather anomaly, a localized storm cell moving at impossible speeds. But the unknowns maintained their target lock. "Ghost One, this is Falcon Lead," came a new voice through the interference, carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions in milliseconds. "We have your position. Multiple friendlies inbound from your 6 o'clock. Hold steady and prepare for immediate tactical support." The cavalry was coming, but Zara realized with growing unease that she might be bait in a trap designed by minds that understood warfare at levels beyond conventional military doctrine. The unknown aircraft hadn't attacked. They'd herded her into position for reasons that wouldn't become clear until escape became impossible. Her enhanced sensors detected movement beneath the ocean's surface, massive objects rising from depths that officially contained nothing but seawater and classified memories. Whatever had taken Flight 447 represented more than sophisticated terrorism. This was an invasion by enemies who'd spent years studying American capabilities and developing countermeasures that existed beyond the reach of traditional defense strategies. The sky belonged to ghosts now, and Zara was flying blind through a war that hadn't been declared yet. Commander Novik's voice cut through static like a chainsaw through silk. "All units, this is Falcon Lead. We have positive identification on hostile aircraft using advanced stealth technology. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Repeat, weapons-free." The authorization felt like stepping off a cliff into warfare that existed beyond international law or Geneva Convention protections. Zara's tactical display lit up with friendly IFF transponders as 8 additional F-35s emerged from stealth protocols, their Phoenix-equipped airframes creating an aerial formation that resembled nothing in conventional military doctrine. Each aircraft represented hundreds of millions in development costs and years of testing that pushed human physiology to its absolute limits. "Ghost One, Falcon Lead. Form up on my 6 and prepare for immediate engagement. These bogies are fast, maneuverable, and equipped with weapons systems we haven't seen before." Zara slotted into formation, feeling the Phoenix system synchronize with the other aircraft. The neural interfaces created a shared tactical awareness that bordered on telepathy, 8 pilots functioning as components of a single consciousness, dedicated to violence and protection in equal measure. The unknown aircraft struck first. Energy weapons lanced through the electromagnetic storm with precision that suggested AI-assisted targeting. The beams moved at light speed, requiring defensive measures that operated faster than human reflexes. Phoenix technology intercepted the attacks by creating localized electromagnetic barriers, walls of charged particles that absorbed directed energy and dispersed it harmlessly into the atmosphere. "Jesus Christ!" Lieutenant Kowalski's voice exploded through the tactical net. "They're using directed energy weapons. Repeat, hostile aircraft are equipped with plasma-based armaments." Zara rolled, inverted, and dove through cloud formations that seemed to move with deliberate intent, her enhanced sensors tracking targets that flickered in and out of existence like quantum particles observed under impossible conditions. The Phoenix systems fed her targeting data that bypassed normal human sensory limitations. She could sense hostile aircraft positions through electromagnetic signatures that conventional sensors couldn't detect. Ghost 1 Fox 3. She released a modified AIM-120 missile that incorporated Phoenix guidance technology, watching it streak toward a target that existed more as probability than physical presence. The missile impact lit up the storm with energies that shouldn't exist in nature, revealing the hostile aircraft in perfect detail for 3 seconds before it vanished again into atmospheric camouflage. But those 3 seconds provided intelligence that would redefine modern warfare. Aircraft configurations that suggested manufacturing capabilities beyond any known aerospace industry. They weren't just fighting terrorists with stolen technology. They were engaging an enemy that had achieved aerospace advancement years ahead of anything in American development pipelines. Technical Sergeant Rodriguez monitored communications from the Joint Operations Center, his headset crackling with transmissions that painted an increasingly desperate picture of aerial combat occurring beyond the reach of traditional military support. The electromagnetic interference created by Phoenix technology was affecting satellite communications across the Atlantic theater, creating information blackouts that left field commanders operating on instinct and decades of training. Control, this is Falcon Lead. Novik's voice carried exhaustion that comes from making split-second decisions while flying aircraft that push human consciousness to its breaking point. We've engaged multiple hostiles equipped with advanced stealth and directed energy weapons, requesting immediate tactical support and medical evac coordinates. Rodriguez studied readouts that showed friendly aircraft signatures flickering like dying stars. The Phoenix technology that made the F-35s nearly invisible also made coordination incredibly difficult. Pilots were fighting a battle where friend and foe existed in quantum superposition, visible only when weapons fire illuminated the sky with impossible energies. Falcon Lead Control. Be advised that hostile aircraft configurations suggest non-conventional manufacturing. Recommend extreme caution in close-quarters engagement. The warning came too late. Control, Falcon 3 is down. Repeat, Falcon 3 is down. Aircraft broke apart during evasive maneuvers, structural failure consistent with directed energy impact. Rodriguez watched Lieutenant Kowalski's IFF transponder disappear from his tactical display, taking with it a 26-year-old pilot who'd survived missions over Syria and Afghanistan, only to die in a battle that officially wasn't happening above an ocean that contained secrets worth more than human lives. Ghost 1, this is Control, Rodriguez transmitted through encryption protocols that changed every 10 seconds. You are now primary for search and rescue coordination. Flight 447's last known position is Grid 88 Charlie. Multiple hostile contacts in your operational area. Through satellite imagery that refreshed every 3 seconds, Rodriguez watched Zara's aircraft maneuver through atmospheric conditions that resembled a 3-dimensional maze built from electromagnetic disturbances and controlled weather systems. She was flying blind through a storm that had been engineered as a weapon, hunting passengers who might already be dead, while being hunted by enemies whose capabilities exceeded current threat assessment models. The war had evolved beyond human comprehension, and Zara was fighting it alone above waters that reflected nothing but classified moonlight and the burning wreckage of conventional military doctrine. The silence that followed combat was always the worst part. Zara's F-35 cut through air that still tasted of ozone and burned metal, her sensors sweeping for any trace of Flight 447 or the mysterious aircraft that had vanished as suddenly as they'd appeared. The Phoenix systems maintained stealth protocols while scanning electromagnetic spectrums for signatures that might indicate survivors, wreckage, or continued hostile presence. Below, the Atlantic stretched endlessly in all directions, its surface unmarked by any evidence of the aerial battle that had just rewritten the rules of modern warfare. The ocean kept secrets with patience that measured time in geological epochs, and today it had gained new mysteries worth protecting with violence. Control, Ghost One, Zara transmitted through communications equipment that functioned beyond the theoretical limits of radio technology. I'm detecting debris field bearing 090, range 12 nautical miles. Investigating. The debris told a story written in twisted metal and shattered dreams. Aircraft components that didn't match Flight 447's manifest floated among personal belongings that had survived impacts designed to obliterate evidence. A child's stuffed animal drifted beside laptop fragments containing classified information, while life preservers bearing airline logos mixed with equipment that suggested military rather than civilian purpose. Ghost One, Control. What's your assessment of survivor probability? Zara studied thermal readings that painted grim pictures in infrared spectrums. Control, I'm detecting multiple heat signatures in the water. Survivors confirmed, initiating search and rescue protocols. But as she descended for closer inspection, her enhanced sensors revealed details that challenged basic assumptions about the hijacking. The survivors weren't passengers from Flight 447. They were wearing flight suits that incorporated technology she recognized as Phoenix-derived modifications. The people floating in life rafts below weren't victims. They were operators. Control, be advised that survivors are equipped with advanced technical gear. This doesn't match civilian passenger profiles. Recommend caution in recovery operations. The response carried new urgency. Ghost One, multiple additional contacts approaching your position from the north. Bearing 350, range 20 nautical miles and closing fast. Identify and assess intent immediately. Zara's tactical display populated with aircraft signatures that moved in formation patterns, suggesting military training and coordination that took years to develop. But the aircraft themselves defied classification. Their radar returns resembled no configuration in her database, and their flight characteristics suggested propulsion technologies that existed beyond current aerospace development. The mission had evolved from rescue to reconnaissance to something that didn't have a name in any tactical manual. Dr. Chen's voice filled the tactical channel with scientific precision and barely controlled panic. Ghost One, the approaching aircraft are broadcasting Phoenix technology signatures. They're using our own stealth systems against us. Recommend immediate withdrawal to minimum safe distance. But Zara was already locked in engagement range, with an enemy that possessed technological advantages built from stolen American innovation. The sky had become a laboratory where the future of warfare would be tested using weapons that officially didn't exist, operated by pilots whose names would never appear in any history book. The storm clouds above seemed to pulse with artificial rhythms, suggesting that weather itself had become weaponized. The approaching formation moved through the sky with precision that suggested artificial intelligence augmenting human decision-making, their flight patterns creating geometric shapes that served tactical purposes beyond human comprehension. Zara counted 12 aircraft maintaining positions that provided mutual supporting fire, while minimizing exposure to counterattack. Tactical flying that required years of training and integration that couldn't be achieved through conventional pilot development programs. Ghost One, Control. Incoming formation is maintaining hostile bearing, but has not achieved weapons lock. Recommend defensive posture until their intentions are clarified. Through her enhanced sensors, Zara studied aircraft configurations that challenged everything she understood about aerospace engineering. The fuselages seemed to shift geometry during flight, adapting their shape for optimal aerodynamic efficiency while maintaining stealth characteristics that bordered on supernatural. Propulsion systems generated no visible exhaust signature, suggesting power sources that operated beyond conventional jet engine technology. Control, Ghost One. Hostile aircraft are equipped with adaptive aerodynamics and what appears to be room-temperature fusion propulsion. These aren't modified conventional aircraft. They're purpose-built for atmospheric manipulation warfare. The tactical implications settled over the communications channel like radiation from a detonated warhead. If hostile forces had achieved aerospace development years ahead of American programs, traditional air superiority advantages would evaporate faster than morning fog under desert sun. The global balance of power hung in the balance above an ocean that reflected nothing but classified moonlight and strategic uncertainty. Ghost One, you are authorized for immediate defensive engagement. Phoenix weapons systems are hot. Engage at your discretion. But as Zara prepared to fire on targets that might reshape international relations forever, her sensors detected something that changed everything. The approaching aircraft were transmitting distress signals. Not just any distress signals, emergency codes that identified the pilots as American military personnel operating under deep cover protocols that existed beyond normal chain of command authority. Control, abort engagement authorization. Zara's voice carried urgency that transcended normal radio protocol. Incoming aircraft are broadcasting friendly identification codes. Repeat, hostiles are actually friendlies operating under black protocols. The silence that followed suggested that Control was consulting authority levels that existed beyond normal military hierarchy. In the quantum space between question and answer, Zara realized that this mission had layers within layers. A deception operation designed to test Phoenix technology under conditions that simulated actual combat, while maintaining plausible deniability for participants who might not survive the experience. She was fighting a war game that used real weapons and accepted real casualties. The truth was always more complex than the briefings suggested, and sometimes more dangerous than the lies they were designed to protect. The formation leader's voice cut through tactical frequencies with authority that transcended normal military hierarchy. Ghost One, this is Spectre Actual. Stand down weapons systems and prepare for joint tactical briefing. We have information regarding Flight 447 that changes mission parameters. Zara maintained defensive positioning while studying aircraft that seemed to exist in violation of known aerospace principles. The lead aircraft approached with movements that suggested pilot and machine operating in perfect synthesis, turns executed with precision that pushed the boundaries of human tolerance while maintaining formations that required split-second coordination across multiple platforms. Spectre Actual, Ghost One, requesting verification of authority and mission status. I'm operating under Phoenix protocols with weapons-free authorization. Ghost One, Phoenix protocols are compromised. Flight 447 wasn't hijacked by foreign terrorists. It was captured by personnel using Phoenix technology to field test systems that officially don't exist. You're hunting American assets operating under authorizations that exist beyond congressional oversight. The revelation hit like a surface-to-air missile impact. Zara's enhanced sensors continued tracking the formation, while her mind processed implications that stretched far beyond this single engagement. If American military personnel had seized Flight 447 using classified technology for unauthorized testing, then the mission had evolved from counterterrorism to something that resembled civil conflict fought with weapons that could reshape global power structures. Spectre Actual, are you saying this is a rogue operation? Negative, Ghost One. This is a compartmentalized operation testing Phoenix technology under conditions that simulate near-peer conflict. The passengers aboard Flight 447 volunteered for participation in exchange for security clearances that provide access to technology development programs. They're not hostages, they're test subjects. Zara felt ice form in her stomach. The military-industrial complex had evolved beyond civilian oversight, creating programs that used American citizens as experimental subjects in weapons testing that pushed the boundaries of international law and basic human ethics. The Phoenix technology wasn't just about creating stealth aircraft. It was about developing capabilities that would make traditional warfare obsolete, while testing those capabilities on volunteers who'd signed waivers that absolved the government of responsibility for consequences that couldn't be predicted or controlled. Ghost 1, recommend immediate RTB for full tactical briefing. Current engagement serves no strategic purpose and poses unnecessary risk to classified assets. But Zara had seen the debris field, had detected heat signatures from people floating in survival equipment that suggested they'd been in the water far longer than the official timeline indicated. Someone was lying, and the lies were worth killing American pilots to protect. She maintained course toward coordinates that promised answers that might destroy everything she'd sworn to defend. The ocean below revealed secrets written in debris patterns and electromagnetic signatures that suggested violent death and technological impossibility occurring simultaneously. Zara descended through atmospheric layers that felt progressively thicker, as if the Phoenix systems were creating localized pressure variations that affected both her aircraft's performance and her own consciousness. The neural interface transmitted sensory data that human nervous systems weren't designed to process, spatial awareness that extended through electromagnetic spectrums, atmospheric sensitivity that bordered on precognitive intuition. Ghost 1, this is Rescue 7, transmitted a voice that carried medical authority and field-tested competence. We have survivors in the water, multiple casualties requiring immediate medical evacuation, establishing hover patterns for winch operations. Through her enhanced optics, Zara watched MH-60 Seahawk helicopters working above survivors who told stories that didn't match any briefing she'd received. The people being lifted from Atlantic waters wore clothing that ranged from civilian business attire to flight suits incorporating Phoenix technology modifications. Their injuries suggested both aircraft collision trauma and directed energy weapons exposure, burns that could only result from plasma-based armaments fired at close range. Rescue 7, Ghost 1. Be advised that survivor equipment includes technology that may be classified beyond your clearance level. Recommend immediate quarantine protocols. Roger, Ghost 1. Medical personnel are cleared for Phoenix-related exposure. These birds are equipped with containment systems designed specifically for this contingency. The rescue operation proceeded with efficiency that suggested months of planning and preparation. Each survivor was isolated in specialized medical pods that monitored for radiation exposure, neurological effects from Phoenix neural interface systems, and potential psychological trauma resulting from experiencing technologies that challenged fundamental understanding of physical reality. But Zara's sensors detected something that made her question everything about the operation. The survivors weren't suffering from exposure trauma. Their vital signs indicated they'd been in protective environments until very recently. The crash scene had been staged, the debris field carefully arranged to create evidence of catastrophic aircraft failure, while concealing the actual location of Flight 447's passengers. Control, Ghost 1. Recommend immediate forensic analysis of debris patterns. Configuration suggests artificial arrangement rather than aircraft disintegration. The response carried new authority. Ghost 1.